a good afternoon to all. I will most humbly request our Honorable Chair for this session, My Lord Honorable Mrs. Justice Pratibha M. Singh, Judge High Court of Delhi, Honorable Mr. Justice Amit B. Sthalekar, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, Shri Rakesh Kumar Verma, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Jal Shakti, New Delhi, Shri Mukesh Kumar Sinha, Chairman, Central Water Commission, Dr. Rajiv Kumar Mittal, Director General, National Commission for Clean Ganga, Shri Professor A.K. Gosai, former Professor IIT Delhi, to kindly grace the dais. Now we would like to commence with our technical session number 2. My Lord, Honorable Ms. Justice Pratibha M. Singh, Judge High Court of Delhi, Honorable Mr. Justice B. Amit Sthalekar, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, Eastern Zonal Bench, Kolkata, Shri Rakesh Kumar Verma, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Jal Shakti, New Delhi, Shri Mukesh Kumar Sinha, Chairman, Central Water Commission, Shri Rajiv Kumar Mittal, Director General, National Mission for Clean Ganga, Shri Professor A.K. Gosai, former Professor IIT Delhi, Honorable Mr. Justice Prakash Srivastava, Chairperson, and all the honorable members of the National Green Tribunal, officers of the registry, resource persons and delegates, dear students, faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very good afternoon to all. I would request you all to kindly pay your attention to this side, please. I once again extend a warm and cordial welcome to all of you in the second technical session of the National Conference on Environment 2025. As per our tradition, we will now commence with the felicitation of honorable dignitaries on the days. I would now request Honorable Mr. Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal Principal Bench, to kindly welcome and felicitate Honorable Ms. Justice Pratibha M. Singh by presenting a sapling and a memento. Now, I would most humbly request Dr. A. Senthilwell, Honorable Expert Member, National Green Tribunal, New Delhi, to kindly welcome and felicitate Honorable Mr. Justice B. Amit Sthalekar, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, Eastern Zonal Bench, Kolkata, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Thank you, sir. Moving further, I would now request Shri Arvind Kumar. Thank you, sir. Moving further, I would now request Shri Arvind Kumar, Deputy Registrar, National Green Tribunal Principal Bench, to welcome and felicitate Shri Mukesh Kumar Sinha, Chairman, Central Water Commission, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Thank you, sir. I would now request Ms. E. Shobha, Deputy Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Southern Zonal Bench, Chennai, to welcome and felicitate Dr. M. K. Goyal, Director, National Institute for Hydrology, Roorkee, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Now I would request Shri Manjul Singh, Deputy Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Eastern Zonal Bench, Bhopal, to welcome and felicitate Dr. Rajiv Kumar Mittal, Director General, National Mission for Clean Ganga, by presenting a sapling as well as memento. Thank you, sir. Next, I would request Shri Vikesh Ramesh Asudani, Assistant Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Western Zonal Bench, Pune, to welcome Professor A.K. Gosai, former Professor IIT Delhi, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Thank you, sir. With the permission of the chair, I now declare the second technical session commenced. I now most humbly invite our moderator for today, Professor A.K. Gosai, former Professor IIT Delhi, to the rostrum and continue with the session. Thank you and namaste.
Honorable Justice Pratibha M. Singh, Judge, High Court of Delhi. Honorable Justice B. Amit Sthalekar, Justice, Judicial Member, NGT, Eastern Zone Bench, Calcutta. All the panelists we have on the panel: Dr. Rajiv Mittal, who is the Director General of National Mission Clean Ganga; Dr. Mukesh Kumar Sinha, Chairman, Central Water Commission; and Dr. M.K. Goyal, Director, National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. All the participants, all the dignitaries in the audience, students, and the people from the media. At the outset, let me congratulate once again Justice Shrivastava, the chairperson NGT, to have revived this tradition of having the national conference on environment. I remember attending 3 conferences, which were international conferences, in 2016, 17, and 18. I believe these conferences are very, very important to allow this opportunity to have people coming from different domains and discuss this very burning issue of how to preserve the environment, how we can collectively take care of all the requirements which are required to be put in place. And this time the topic which we have selected is water quality management and river rejuvenation. Now this topic becomes very important in view of the fact that all our demands are going up on account of development, on account of the demand which is coming on account of the population growth going up. But at the same time, if you look at, there's no addition in the resource availability. When you talk of water, is a resource which is as precious as air was in the previous section. We have to preserve this resource, but we don't have mechanism to really enhance the availability of this resource. So we have very learned panel who are the people from the core who are managing this precious resource, whether it's the Central Water Commission, who's doing at the national level. They're putting the technical aspects together to make sure that this is properly utilized. We have people from NMCG who are looking at Ganga as a basin, focusing on the pollution aspects of Ganga as well as the quantity aspects. But I think what I want to bring home is that since there's no mechanism to increase this availability of water within the natural variabilities which we see in the past, if you look into the historical aspects, all the river basins we have in the country, we have around 14 major river basins, but the fact remains that all the river basins, we are finding that they are overstressed with respect to the demand which has been imposed on these basins, which is reflected in the fact that all your groundwater is depleting. Whatever deficit is there in the available water resource in respective basins, you are taking that from the groundwater. With the result, the groundwater table is going down. So that is a resource which is to be used very judiciously whenever there is a failure of monsoon, and whenever there is a stress. But that is not happening, and you will be hearing in the news that Central Groundwater Board has declared more number of blocks which are now gone grey, which are overexploited with respect to the groundwater. So we have been analyzing these water basins, the river basins, and it has been found that this quantity is really being, or the demand is being imposed, which is not possible for the river basins to take. Now what we need to do, if we really want to keep the health of the basin in place, you need to ensure that your demand has to come down. The rainwater harvesting is not the solution. Rainwater harvesting only moves the water from one place to the other place. It can be done in a very limited manner, but the major results will be only coming from the demand management, reducing your demand, enhancing your water use efficiency, or reusing the water. So I think those are the things which we need to do. Now the question is, and that is what we need to learn from our panel, very learned panel, that what kind of actions we are taking to ensure that this resource becomes more sustainable in the coming years. We are in a position to use the same amount of water which becomes available to us as a society, with some variability across the space. But whatever is available, that has to be used very judiciously. So I will also like to mention that there are actions, I know that they are being taken, but from the quality angle also, if any amount of water which has become not fit for use because of the converting into wastewater and not treating it properly, that is also going out of your available resource, and that is another issue which has to be tackled properly. All our river basins, all the rivers are getting polluted because of various reasons. It has been discussed in the morning session on account of these actions for the air pollution, but similar things are happening for the water as well. So we are not able to treat the water, we are polluting the water. With the result, it is having a health hazard, is also having other issues that your crops are getting and getting bad effect, your biodiversity is getting affected. In the end, we need to really look at, all of us agree and understand that the integrated water resources management is the only way forward. But why is not working? Those are the questions which are the key questions to be addressed today, that where we have failed, what are the actions we are taking after knowing that these are the issues which are to be addressed, but we are not, as a society, as different departments who are given that task. What is the reason that we are falling short of the expectations? That is what I think we'll need to really debate today and find out if we have the issues of policies, whether the policies are not there, if the policies are there but is not being implemented properly, what are the options available with us, what kind of actions we need to take to really put the implementation of those policies properly. So with that, I'll stop here, but I just wanted to give a context to the whole session. I will now request Honorable Justice Pratibha M. Singh, who's Judge, Delhi High Court, to give the initial thoughts to the problem. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to all of you, my colleague judges who are on the dais and in the audience, and all the dignitaries on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not an expert on environmental law, but like all of you, most of you here, my intention would be to basically highlight a couple of things that we as judges have learnt in one particular matter as a case study to kind of highlight the problems and to see how we can solve them with a little bit of coordination and a little bit of technology. So we all have learnt from young age कि जल ही जीवन है, जल के बगैर कुछ भी नहीं है. लेकिन we don't give the importance to water that we need to give, and therefore I feel that as a nation we are now kind of focusing on how to conserve water, clean water, preserve water and keep it for the next generations, and how that is a very, very possible thing by learning from some examples from foreign countries and what are the challenges that we face in our country. So there are efforts being taken across the globe, but since we are going to be running very late already in these sessions, I'm going to try and kind of come straight to the point and to the slides that I wish to show to all of you. So there are three stories that I wish to highlight to you. One is the story in Switzerland, another is the Rhine River images, and then from Namibia. If you look at the Swiss model, 14% of the population of Switzerland was connected to a wastewater treatment plant. In fact, Switzerland had the dirtiest water in Europe in the 60s. Some rivers, people were banned from even swimming in them. There was a tragedy of a typhoid outbreak which took place. And today, Switzerland has earned the character of being the country with blue gold water because they were able to clean it completely. And therefore, I do think that any country in the world, whether it's the Thames, and if any of you have to travel to Toronto, there's a beautiful train station there, where if you walk through the whole underground, they have images of their river from the 60s and 70s and how it completely changed in the 90s. So these are extremely possible things which we have to achieve only with a little bit of drive and determination. And I think the effort today by the NGT to have all of us stakeholders here is one step in that direction. And therefore, I would like to compliment the chairperson and his entire team who is here for having organized this. Please see the 1986 chemical spill which turned the river Rhine red. And then what it is today. Not many years ago, actually. So, how did they restore the Rhine River? Basically through cross-border collaboration, strict industrial regulations, restoration of the ecosystem, but the most important thing is the community engagement, which they did, i.e. schools, businesses, families, NGOs, citizens, they were made to participate. Therefore, wasting of water, throwing water, allowing it to move into the rivers without supervision, monitoring, quality control, these are the problems that rivers face, and we as citizens have to take a pledge to actually keep our rivers clean. And if we do it, if each of us does it, then we can all achieve this is the point. Same with Namibia. It is one of the driest countries in Africa, and with only a 280 mm annual rainfall. They have today, by recycling and using the same water into purified drinking water, completely overcome the water shortage. And in fact, Namibia's model is being, kind of copied into various US cities also, and India is also looking into it. Let us now look at some of the snapshots of Indian rivers. And these are some of the cases itself which are before courts, where the drains, etc. are so clogged. In the river Yamuna, see at the entry, the permissible limit is on the left side, and on the right side, and the biochemical oxygen demand is on the left. So at the entry level, the river is absolutely clean. But in the middle, in this mid-city level, please see how it changes, and see after Okhla, how it changes in the river Yamuna. It's 50 times more polluted. So there's something that the city of Delhi is doing that the water just gets completely polluted. In fact, even during COVID, everybody will remember there were reports that Yamuna had become completely clean. There was no froth in the Yamuna because all industries had come to a lockdown, all people were sitting in their homes, there was no pollution that was happening. That proves that it's actually we, the people, who are creating the pollution. It's not nature. Nature is actually giving it as pristine water to us, but it's people who create it. This is the suo motu intervention which was done by the Delhi High Court during the recent monsoons in last year, when almost all the major posh South Delhi colonies got waterlogged completely. Several lawyers lost their offices. Libraries worth crores were lost in basements. And the reason was nothing but drain clearance. There is so much unauthorized construction on the drain that it's not possible for the water to flow. And in some places like this one on the right side, extreme right, you'll see that the drain is completely stopped. It doesn't even go into the Yamuna. So the water just comes backward into the city. So this is a suo motu petition which the Delhi High Court Division Bench had taken under the aegis of their Chief Justice at that time. And repeated directions have been issued. Drain by drain, the cleaning is being monitored by the Delhi High Court. And I wanted to present this as a case study to show what are the problems that the High Court is facing, and this is all in orders which are publicly available for you all to read. Now, what we saw was there are a total of 33 areas, industrial areas, which were, industrial areas which were there. And out of those 33 areas, only 16 areas had common treatment plants. In Delhi, can you believe it? It's the capital city. So there are no treatment plants in the remaining. A large number of CETPs are not supervised by anybody. And some of the CETPs are under private control and societies control them. And the most important thing is there are no flow meters at every outlet which is going into the river. And even with simple things such as installation of flow meters, the water quality is being monitored, and then it is telling the court and the authorities as to what is wrong in that particular inlet which is going into the river. Because the CETPs are not supervised, polluted water is flowing into the Yamuna. And you will be surprised that the industrial areas in Delhi, 16 of them, don't even have the treatment plants. And if that is the position, how do we expect that the Yamuna will be cleaned? How much of a water we may clean on the Yamuna, it has to be on the riverbed that we need to stop it first. So it is a big challenge that the court has taken upon itself. Maybe even it will as an example. One of the most important things that we realize is the multiple agencies who look into this. So there is an MCD, there is a DDA, there is a PWD, there is a Delhi Jal Board, each one is going on passing the responsibility to the other agency. And so the court had to constitute, finally request the LG to constitute a special task force. And now there's one task force looking into one particular drain, the cleaning of one drain. So this is a very mammoth responsibility. In fact, courts can't do it without the government's implementation being in place. So there is a complete rethink that is required. In one drain, you will not believe it, it's about a 1100 or a 1200 meter drain, and they said 400 meters is with the MCD and the remaining is with the DDA. How is one supposed to even get that drain cleaned? It's not possible if there are multiple agencies dealing with this. So the point that I wish to make is this, that courts can do as much as they can only. It is the agencies which need to put their heads together and to make sure that they work in coordination. There needs to be one individual or one body who will oversee all the work that is happening. For one river, there should be one body which is looking into it and everybody should report to it. If we don't do that, I think we are in a situation where we are going in a vicious circle. Each body will keep blaming the other and then there won't be a solution which we can find. But yes, after this writ has been filed and the orders which have been given, there are various orders that have been passed in this, including for rejuvenation of the water bodies and rainwater harvesting. Illegal encroachment has been directed to be removed on the Yamuna floodplains. 100% treatment of sewage is the final ultimate aim in this matter. And then if you see, the plan has been put forward, and this is the plan that has been put forward, that some of the plants are being installed. In several buildings, rainwater harvesting is being installed. So there is a plan in place and the court is monitoring it. And all that one can say is that this kind of a monitoring cannot be done by courts. The courts are trying, but the point is the agencies, specialized agencies have to do it. NGT is also passing orders day in and day out, but the path forward has to be through better coordination. There has to be a reform in policy. Innovation has to be used for installation of proper meters and a centralized monitoring and supervision body. And we should take from experiences in foreign countries and start a mass campaign to kind of sensitize our citizens as well. One or two solutions that I personally felt could be helpful is if we could have public display boards across the city, wherever the water is entering the river Yamuna, where the purity is shown on a daily basis, and at least that will kind of make the agencies more accountable to each other, and then there should be more stricter reporting mechanisms. This is just a case study of the river Yamuna, and I thought there's nothing better than having an academic discussion than to have an actual case study. I don't know how many of you recall watching this beautiful movie of Julia Roberts called Erin Brockovich. It's a beautiful movie where she, as a with a young child, tries to fight underwater pollution by an industry in the river and files claims for various people. So these issues have been faced by most of the countries in the world. It's only the determination of a country that can make our rivers safe. We worship our rivers. Let us actually worship them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Justice Pratibha Singh. Since you have mentioned the Delhi case, since I was also involved in Delhi case, the order of NGT 2015 January order, which was for Yamuna. See, that order, if it is implemented in true spirit, it can take care of the pollution problem of Yamuna. What the order said, there are 200 natural segments of stormwater drains in Delhi. Nobody accepts that. People only talk in terms of 22 drains which fall ultimately into Yamuna. So at that time, Justice Sartanta Kumar, I was engaged by him to really look at this aspect. So I said, what will happen to the 200 mini Yamunas because he was of the opinion that why not to capture pollution as it enters Yamuna and take it outside the city, and we'll be quite fine. I said, what will happen to 200 mini Yamunas which are spread over the whole city? The problem is that all these 200 drains, not even a single one is there which is not carrying sewage throughout the year. These drains should be dry during the non-monsoon period so that they can be desilted properly and they can be ready for the next monsoon. That has not happened. I feel is a question of implementing things which you make as policy properly, and all the departments, there are 11 departments in Delhi which are taking care of the different stormwater drains. So as you have said that Switzerland, and you have given the examples of Switzerland and Namibia, everything can be done is doable here also. It's a question of intent and properly implementing the things. And another thing which I think I'd like to mention, that while doing the water security project of Delhi in IIT, we had, as you mentioned, that we should monitor. We had created a portal and installed an NMCG server, because all the actions which are being taken by DJB, mostly in Delhi, I said we should know that what is the impact of that action. unless you evaluate, if you say that you have intercepted this much sewage, then downstream of that it should be visible that it has made some impact. So we had given that, and I think it's still there. Since Dr. Mittal is here, we'll find out that what is the outcome of that. We have already done that job of mapping the whole thing, and then if you put something, you can analyze. You can use even models to find out how much difference it should have been made on the ground, and that is where we expect the people from the public, they should get connected, and they will only get connected if they see something which is to be understood by them and they can put pressure. So I think all those things are possible. So we can learn more about these actions and what are the additional actions to be taken so that we get the final outcome which we all expect. Now I'll request Honorable Justice B. Amit Thalkar, Judicial Member of NGT and Eastern Zone Bench of Calcutta. Over to you.
A warm namaskar to all of you. I'm sure you will all agree that that pictorial presentation was worth many, many times more than 1,000 words spoken so far. And I'm sure that pictorial presentation would have shaken us all out of the slumber that we were slipping into after the lunch. Environmental cleanliness is not just a matter for sermons in a seminar. It has a constitutional mandate. As one of the speakers in the first session said, Article 48A of the Constitution mandates that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. At the same time, Article 51G casts of the Constitution mandates a fundamental duty on every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for all living creatures. This conference has given us an opportunity to interact and discuss the vital issues relating to water quality management, legislations, causes of water pollution, river rejuvenation, and the government's initiatives in this regard. I will touch each of these headings in very briefly. So far as India is concerned, in the Global Water Quality Index of 2024 of the United Nations Environment Programme, it ranks 120 out of 122 countries. So you can imagine where we stand. It is certainly not a pointer where we can be very proud of ourselves. To say Mera Bharat Mahan is one thing, statistics would show something else. India has an 18% of the world's population, but only 4% of its fresh water resources, making it one of the worst and most stressed countries in the world. Water-stressed countries in the world. The United Nations report further mentions that 70% of India's water is contaminated, with nearly half of the country's rivers unsafe for drinking or irrigation, industrial waste, untreated sewage, and agricultural runoff have severely polluted our rivers, lakes, including groundwater. The Global Risk Report of 2025 in the World Economic Forum reveals acute shortages in water supply would be the most severe risk upcoming for India in the next 2 years from 2025 to 2027. These shortages are driven by factors including human overexploitation, mismanagement of critical natural resources, climate change, and insufficient infrastructure. The causes of water pollution in India are many. Toxic chemicals, both organic and inorganic chemicals used in manufacturing processes such as solvents, acids, alkalis, pesticides, dyes, and synthetics. Oil and grease released from machinery during industrial processes can coat water surfaces, hindering oxygen transfer and harming aquatic life. Suspended solids. Particulate matter can cloud water, reduce light penetration, and settle to the bottom, smothering benthic organisms. Heat, that is thermal pollution. Discharge of heated water from power plants and other industries can alter water temperatures, affecting aquatic life and oxygen levels. Nutrients. Other than agricultural and domestic sources, some industrial processes can release excess nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and phosphorus contributing to eutrophication. Pathogens which are produced in industries like those processing animal products can release disease-causing microorganisms. Radioactive materials released into water sources by nuclear power plants and radioactive isotopes in some industrial processes are also one of the causes. As per the statistics placed in the public domain by the pollution control boards and the pollution control committees, out of 65,135 ranges of industries requiring effluent treatment plants, 63,108 industries are operating with useful ETPs, but 2,027 industries are operating without ETPs, which is also an alarming number. Domestic sewage, discharge of untreated and inadequately treated sewage from urban and rural areas, cities and towns, is biggest source of pollution of water bodies in India. As per statistics placed in the public domain by the Central Pollution Control Board, all Class 1 and Class 2 towns together generate an estimated 29,120 million liters per day of sewage, against which the installed sewage treatment capacity is only 6,190 MLD. These statistics present a dismal picture. There is a gap of 22,939 MLD between sewage generation and installed sewage treatment capacity, which in percentage terms comes to 78.7%. Agricultural runoff. Through excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides are washed into our water bodies, contributing to eutrophication and excessive algal blooms, leading to oxygen depletion and death of aquatic life. Urban runoff. Urban runoff is characterized by impervious surfaces such as roads, pavements, parking lots, and rooftops, etc., where rainfall flowing over the surfaces picks up various pollutants along the way, which ultimately drains into our rivers, lakes, ponds, and water bodies. Solid waste disposal. Solid waste disposal includes household garbage, commercial waste, industrial waste, non-hazardous waste, construction debris, which contribute to the pollution of our water bodies through direct dump, leachate from landfills, runoff from open waste dump, plastic pollution, burning of waste, sewage blockages. Fluoride, iron and arsenic are also core contributors to water pollution. Fluoride is increasingly contaminating groundwater in Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Karnataka. Excessive iron content finds presence in groundwater in the northern plains of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. Arsenic contamination is rampant in Ganga and Brahmaputra floodplains, particularly in West Bengal, Assam, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. This is one area where we are trying to address the situation through the efforts of the NGT, but that is not so easy. Ultimately, everything falls on the implementing authorities. Salinity due to over-extraction of groundwater, arid condition, is primarily resulting in increased salinity in groundwater. Certain reports in the public domain, which may be subject to dispute, show that India extracts almost 25% of the global groundwater in a single year, resulting in extraction of 230 cubic kilometer area in each year of groundwater. Several river rejuvenation projects have been launched in India, such as Namami Gange program, Yamuna Action Plan, National River Conservation Plan, Clean Kaveri Initiative, Brahmaputra River Rejuvenation Project, Sabarmati Riverfront Development Project, Gomti Riverfront Development Project, and Krishna River Rejuvenation Project. Question is, go home today, take a glass of water from your kitchen tap and ask yourselves whether you can drink it. You don't have to give me an answer and I don't have to ask you again. Rejuvenation of rivers is necessary for biodiversity preservation, improvement in water quality, flood mitigation, sustainable water management, cultural and recreational value and ecosystem services, including water purification, nitrogen cycling, sediment transportation, and habitat provision, among others. There are several parliamentary legislations, and those which we need to implement are the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. Sections 24, 25, 26, 27 of the Act provide the do's and don'ts and the regulatory measures therein as to how and when environmental consents may be granted, and also when the same may be refused or withdrawn. Question is shortage of implementation. The reason may be whatever. When we talk of the condition of our rivers, the first thing that comes across in the counter affidavits that are filed before us is encroachment in the area. We always wonder, why are the encroachments permitted in the first instance and why no action is being taken against the encroachers? The reason is obvious, but having said that, that is not enough. It is ultimately for the government to act, and the government has to act. Then you have the Water Cess Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1977, which provides imposition of cess on water consumed by industries listed in Schedule 1 of the Act and by specified industries and local authorities if they use water for purposes listed in Schedule 2 of the Act. Environment Protection Act 1986, Section 2A of the Act defines environment to include water, among others, and Section 7 thereof prohibits a person from carrying on any industry, operation or processes from discharging or emitting water pollutants or permitting their discharge or emission in excess of prescribed standards. Penalty provisions are provided in Section 15 of the Act. Question is, how much of penalty has been recovered so far, imposed or recovered? Then we have the Wetlands Conservation Management Rules of 2017, which the Act defines wetlands to include an area of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, whether static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water, etc. Wetland complexes means two or more ecologically and hydrologically contiguous wetlands and may include their connecting channels, ducts, as defined in Section 2H of the rules. The rules further provide that the wetlands may be exploited in accordance with the principle of wise use as determined by the Wetlands Authority. In this case also, the majority of the cases that come up before us, particularly before the Eastern Bench relating to the East Kolkata wetland, which is one of the biggest Ramsar sites, the issue ultimately boils down to encroachment. An encroachment which is continuing for years together. Question is, again as I repeated earlier, question is, how has the encroachment been allowed to exist at all in that area or come up in that area? And why no action has been taken? Question is, give them an opportunity of hearing, which is a lengthy process. Why don't the courts ask them first under what authority they are occupying that land? We are given to the bichara system of all the time, the bichara person residing in that hutment, he is the bichara. Question is, where did he come from? Why did he occupy government land? What is his authority? He is continuing there for 15 years, 20 years. The authority must hold all the inquiry and in fact tell him that, look here, you are unauthorized, but nobody asks him, show your authorization to occupy that land. I think that a change in mindset is required. There are several judicial pronouncements, starting with the Hinchlal Tiwari case, where the Supreme Court insisted that the water body in question, that the pond in question should be restored. Then we have the Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum versus Union of India case. That was a case where the tanneries were discharging untreated effluents into agricultural fields, roadsides, waterways and open lands into the river Palar. The Honorable Supreme Court directed closure of the industries on the polluter pays principle, directing recovery of cost of restoration of the environmental degradation. Then we have the celebrated case of MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, where the respondent changed the entire course of the river to set up his motel. The matter went up to the Supreme Court and ultimately Supreme Court directed removal of the motel and restoration of the river to its original course. That was a landmark judgment. Then there was another MC Mehta versus Union of India case of 1997, reported in 2 SCC 353. That was a case raising issues of soil and water contamination in the area surrounding the Taj Mahal, wherein the court, applying the principles of precautionary principle as well as the polluter pays, ordered the polluting industries to switch over to clean fuel or stop production totally. Ultimately, those are the drastic decisions and steps which courts have to take. There is no shortcut in such matters. Then we have the Indian Council for Enviro Legal Action versus Union of India, 1996 5 SCC 281. That was a case where, with regard to the Government of India CRZ notification of 19 February 1991, with regard to coastal stretches which were declared as coastal management zones having extensive groundwater, the Supreme Court observed that if a law is enacted but is not being voluntarily obeyed, then it has to be enforced. Violation of anti-pollution laws not only adversely affect the existing quality of life, but non-enforcement of the legal provisions often results in ecological imbalance and degradation of environment and adverse effect, of which we will have to be, effect of which will have to be borne by future generations. Again in MC Mehta in the 1997 SCC matter with regard to the Calcutta tanneries, this was a case of discharge of effluents from tanneries into the river Ganga from 550 tanneries located within Kolkata. And the Supreme Court directed that the concerned polluting industries be relocated and the land which is available for use for greener purposes. Now that was a case of 1997, and let me tell you, when I joined the NGT Eastern Bench in 2021, there were still cases of these tanneries pending, which had been filed quite when I had joined. Until then, the tanneries had neither been removed nor brought within the environmental regime. So as I said, that we may give lectures here, we may discuss issues relating to environment, we may have a lot of experts coming and giving their opinion. Ultimately, question is whether all that knowledge and all that information is enforced at the ground level. And only then you will have cleaner water. When you go back to your kitchens, you will be able to draw a glass of water and drink that water feeling very safe that you will not have hepatitis. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Stalekar, for identifying some of the major sources of pollution in water. But you also touched upon a very important aspect of encroachment. I think it's important for us to understand that the encroachment can only be stopped if you have the floodplain zoning done in your river systems. So far, as a country, we didn't have the floodplain zoning, and just before this session, I was talking with Chairman Central Water Commission and finding out whether some action has been taken in that direction. So I was very pleased to know that in around 4 or 5 states, the floodplain zoning has been done. What it means is that you identify that what is the flood which is expected to come and which area of the floodplain it'll encroach, it'll inundate. So you define the 1 in 25-year flood, 1 in 50-year flood, 1 in 75-year flood, or 1 in 100-year flood. And then you declare that which magnitude of flood, if that is expected, which area comes under that, and that should not be available for some specific activities. So you cannot build a house if you are coming within, let's say, 1 in 50-year flood. So since that was not in place, even if you want to take action, you don't have a mechanism in place to take those actions. But since it is now being done, we can expect that in the coming years, once you declare that this is the land which can be inundated very frequently, and then people like the insurance people will come and they'll say that we won't give you any insurance cover if you're coming within this area. So I think those are the kind of things which have to be happening simultaneously. But we'll have more discussion if the time permits on these aspects. I'll now call upon Dr. Rajiv Kumar Mittal, who is the Director General of National Mission Clean Ganga. So we have a lot of questions to ask from him, that what is the status of the cleanliness of River Ganga, which was promised to the country, and where we stand now. What is the timeline he has in mind, and how he is going to ensure, and what are the challenges he is facing. All those questions we'd like to put to him. Thank you. Please come over.
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Chairperson NGT, distinguished members of all the benches, Honorable Chair, and my esteemed fellow panelists. It's an honor to address this distinguished gathering on the vital topic of water. I will be primarily focusing on river, and basically I will be covering what we are doing in the Namami Gange program, what are the achievements, what are the challenges we are facing in the Namami Gange, and what is the future template we are setting for the rejuvenation of rivers in the country. Friends, we all know the health of our rivers and all the water bodies is very closely linked to the well-being of the environment, our economy, our communities. Rivers, which are the lifelines of millions, are facing unprecedented challenges of pollution, over-extraction, and climate change. However, in India, I can say this very clearly, with innovations, policy interventions, and community-driven approach, we are seeing a paradigm shift in the template for the river rejuvenation and the wastewater management. Friends, we all know rivers, water is a state subject, and traditionally, Government of India was supporting the efforts of the state towards river cleanliness by supporting their activities towards the National River Conservation Plan. However, in 2014-15, there was a thought process that this activity needs to be taken up at a more intensive level, and states all alone will not be able to manage this thing. And this was the genesis of the National Mission for Clean Ganga, the Namami Gange program, as we know. Other important thing to note is the formation of Ministry of Jal Shakti. Till now, let's say up till 2014-17, water was handled through Ministry of Environment as a pollution subject, and there was a separate department for drinking water. In 2019, Government of India constituted Ministry of Jal Shakti, realizing the importance of the water as an integrated area. And Ministry of Jal Shakti was composed of 3 compartments. One was the erstwhile water resources, which was dealing with the irrigation projects, dams, and all other activities. Rivers was carved out from MOEF and brought into Jal Shakti, and drinking water department was also merged into Ministry of Jal Shakti. So this was the whole approach, that the whole water cycle has to be treated and explained as one subject, and that's why Ministry of Jal Shakti was formed in 2019. I think this is a very fundamental shift in the governance approach towards water as an area. Now, coming back to Namami Gange program, it is true that rivers in India are facing a lot of problems. There is no denial to this. However, the approach which is being developed under NMCG program and the template which is emerging is very promising. The first and most important point of the Namami Gange program is it follows the river basin approach. I mean, it is not dealing the river into cities, it is not dealing the river into states. The entire administrative jurisdiction is removed, and the river as a whole is now being treated in its entirety. If we have to cover the area of the Namami Gange program, the river Ganga, the main stem, flows through basically 5 states. It starts from Uttarakhand, it goes to UP, then Bihar, then Jharkhand, and West Bengal. So, and Namami Gange program is focusing on all these 5 states in entirety while trying to deal the pollution of the river Ganga. Erstwhile, the problem was we used to talk in terms of urban local bodies, we used to talk in terms of district, we used to talk in terms of the, let's say, states. Even when we look at Yamuna, even if we solve the issues of Delhi, Yamuna is not going to be clean. Because you have to consider the entire basin of Yamuna. Unless we treat Haryana, unless we treat Himachal, unless we treat Mathura, the Uttar Pradesh part, the river has to be treated in its entirety. That's a very important lesson which we are trying to understand and trying to follow. So the first and foremost thing is the river has to be treated as an entire basin, and this is precisely what we are doing in Namami Gange program. Second thing is scientific and technical approach. The entire Namami Gange program was founded on a very scientific report which was given by a consortium of 7 IITs. That was the founding document on which the entire Namami Gange program was launched by Government of India and formed. And Professor Gosen is there. There is no better person for being a moderator for this session because he was a part of this document when this entire thing was formed by the consortium of IIT. So all our interventions, all our approaches is based on this founding document. Just to give you an impact, when the Namami Gange program started, number of STPs in Uttarakhand and UP were respectively 4 and 8. Today, as we are standing now, 7 years down the line, the number of STPs in Uttarakhand are 65, the number of STPs in UP are 90. So this is the fundamental shift which Namami Gange program has brought in, how to develop these STPs. Now, coming to the theme of the Namami Gange programs, just for the understanding and a easier way of approaching the river cleanliness, the entire program has been divided into 4 main components. We call them Nirmal Dhara, Aviral Dhara, Jan Dhara, Gyan Dhara. These all capture the different aspects of the river rejuvenation. The Nirmal Dhara is about the pollution aspect. How do you deal with the pollution part of it? Aviral Dhara is about the strength of the flow, how to improve the flow volume in the river. Jan Dhara is about the people connect, and Gyan Dhara is about the research related to river. I will be explaining how all these components are important. Now, coming to the first component, which is Nirmal Dhara. One of the fundamental realizations in Namami Gange program, when we construct a STP, a sewage treatment plant from the perspective of an urban local body, idea is to develop a sewer network and collect that effluent into the sewer and bring into the STP. But we all know in India, for a variety of reasons, constructing a sewer network is a very, very time-consuming process. So to wait for the sewer construction and then to stop the flow into river was the question, or to find something else. So one of the models which has been developed under the Namami Gange for river development and water body protection is the interception and the diversion approach. The idea behind this approach is not to wait for the sewer network to be completed. Sewer network will be constructed in its own time. But in the meantime, wherever the drains are meeting the river, intercept those drain points, divert that sewer into the STP and start treating it. So this IND has been a very big innovation in the Namami Gange and is a very good template for all the river protection and the water body protection projects in India in the future. Second thing is HAM model. Constructing a STP is the most easiest job. But once you construct a STP, running that STP is the most difficult job. Now, when the contracts are splitted into constructing a STP and running a STP, the person who is constructed an STP has no skin in the game. He will construct the STP and go away. But if the contract is built in such a way, the person who is building the STP has also to run it for next 15 years, then the stakes dramatically changes. Then he ensures he has a long-term stake in the game, quality of construction improves, and the overall management of the site, the project improves. So this is one thing we have done in Namami Gange program, the hybrid annuity model we have introduced in the sewerage sector, which was not there earlier in the sewerage sector. HAM model is very, very prominently followed in the road sector. The person who builds the road also operates it for next 15 years. So what we do is in HAM model, is suppose a project is costing, let's say, 100 rupees. 50 rupees is the capital investment for construction, 50 rupees is the operation and maintenance. So what we do after construction, we only pay him 40% of 50 rupees, which means 20 rupees. Rest 30 rupees and 50 rupees of O&M are paid to him in 60 annuity installments. That means every quarter 4 installment for next 15 years. So every quarter he gets 1 rupee of the capex, balance capex, and balance of the O&M. So this is the way. So advantage in this approach is the quality of construction improves, the better agencies, the better players who have the capacity to sustain for 15-16 years come for operation and building these STPs. So this is a very big innovation which has come in the Namami Gange program. The third thing which we have followed, which ma'am also referred in her talk, is the real-time monitoring of STPs. All our STPs are real-time monitored in a dashboard in NMCG, in a dashboard in the State Pollution Control Board, in the State Project Monitoring Units of Namami Gange. All our STPs are online monitored. The concise version of online reports which is available in the dashboard is also put on the websites of NMCG. All our results of our STP are publicly available for the parameters which are online monitorable, namely flow, BODs, TODs. These are in public domain. Every month, all the STP results which are online connected are put on the website. So these three innovations we have developed in terms of river rejuvenation, and I feel these serves as a very useful template when we keep river in the mind. The next component in terms of river rejuvenation in Namami Gange is the Aviral Ganga, which I mentioned, which tends to go towards the flow enhancement. The main activities which we have done under this thing is, one is the e-flow notification, the environmental flow notification. Though NGT and the Supreme Courts in various judgments have mentioned that the river should have minimum flow. But I think Ganga is perhaps the only river where government has publicly notified a e-flow regime and which is also being very rigorously monitored by Central Water Commission, and in case of any discrepancy, the actions are being taken. So this is also a very good innovation and serves as a template for all the future rivers in India. Other part of the exercise which we have done for the flow enhancement is the mapping and inventorization of riverine wetlands. We have taken the entire Ganga, and in the 10-kilometer stretch of the Ganga, we have mapped all the wetlands which are specifically important for the river Ganga, which serves the recharge function towards the Ganga. They have been mapped, they have been prioritized based on the Ramsar Convention, and various management plans are under implementation for protection and strengthening of these wetlands. Our third pillar is community engagement, which is Jan Ganga. Here we take a lot of activities. I mean, we have tie-up with a lot of institutions. We have tie-up with Center for Science and Environment. We have tie-up with the Indian Institute of Public Administration, who do various kind of activities, whether it is reaching out to the students, whether it is organizing the milawas and functions. And one important component in this pillar is the district Ganga committees. This is again a sort of something which has been tried under Namami Gange program. Namami Gange program has three-tier structure. One is National Ganga Council, which is headed by the Prime Minister. Then we have state Ganga councils, and then we have district Ganga councils. These are all bodies which carry the force of law. DGCs are headed by the district collectors. They meet every month very regularly, and they discuss all aspects of Ganga rejuvenation related to their district. And all these DGCs are monitored very closely. Their recommendations are given value, are factored when we take into account the various pollution abatement measures and all other measures. The last pillar of Namami Gange is the most important pillar, which is an innovation, is Gyan Ganga. A lot of emphasis has been placed in Namami Gange on research part of it. Whether it is a technical research, whether it is a cultural research, whether it is a botanical research, whether it is a forest-related research, all this research has been taken to a great level in Namami Gange. In fact, Professor Gosain himself has done 2-3 projects in terms of research, in terms of various issues, whether it is sand mining, whether it is e-flows, this thing. I am happy to say to you that under this pillar of Gyan Ganga, we have developed a Ganga Knowledge Center. Whatever research which is available on Ganga River has been placed under this Ganga Knowledge Center. It is a one-stop solution. As of now, it contains around 750 documents, books, research papers purely related to Ganga in this thing. It is available on the website. If anybody of you just types Ganga Knowledge Center, Google it, it is available, and all these things are available there. Now, this is the current status of the program. Now, few areas which we have identified in terms of what is the future areas we need to work upon. So 3-4 areas are very clearly coming out. One is emphasis on nature-based solutions. Currently, I mean, the entire river management, the entire urban landscape management is heavily focused on civil engineering solutions. World over, when we look forward, I mean, there is a lot of focus on the nature-based solutions. How to use nature in its original form to rejuvenate rivers, to change landscapes. It gives you more sponginess, it gives you more robust systems, and it is less expensive in terms of O&M and is more robust. For examples, we have constructed wetlands, we have bioremediation techniques. So all these kind of things in the Indian landscape are to be taken forward, and now we are working how to mainstream these kind of solutions. What are the problems in this? I will be covering when I look for the challenges which we are facing. Second point is, which also ma'am also referred, is about the circular economy. One of the realizations is ki, what is the point if your STP is treating to the level of 1010 and you are again discharging this water in the open area? Why can't we reuse it? So there's a lot of emphasis in terms of promoting the circular economy. We have done some pilots also. We have done a mapping also. We have identified some thermal power plants which are very close to STPs, and there is a potential to reuse this treated wastewater from STPs in the nearby thermal power plants. This approach helps us two ways. It prevents the drawal of the fresh water, and more importantly, it ensures the functioning of STP automatically. Because if this water has to be used, there is no way STP can run bad. It has to use this water. Similarly, the other innovations which are coming in the STP management is the generation of gas power. A lot of power plants, a lot of STPs are now generating biogas from the STP sludge. Also, a lot of STPs are now moving to solar. In fact, one of our latest STPs which has come at Bareilly is totally run on the solar power plant. There is zero electricity expense. So all these innovations are now coming up as we run. Just to give you a perspective, NMCG as of now is handling more than 150 STPs. It is more than, I think, number of any state in terms of number of STPs which is being handled in a single form. Third thing which we are now working is the River City Alliance and the Urban River Management Plan. Whatever we are doing is focused on Ganga, but how to percolate and how to evolve whatever we are learning in Ganga to cities which are not at Ganga. So we have formed a River City Alliance. This River City Alliance composed of around 145 cities which are spread all over the India. So it is a knowledge sharing and a collaboration forum where all the good practices are shared, and whatever we are doing in Namami Gange and whatever they are doing in their domains are being shared, and it is a way to move forward to percolate and develop the good practices. Another good thing which we are now working on is Urban River Management Plan. One thing which is very clear is the river has to be treated as a system. I mean, we can't treat each problem of the river on a standalone basis. So just to give this an entire comprehensive framework, okay, I will just take 2-3 minutes more. So just to give you the entire framework, we have formed a concept called Urban River Management Plan. It is being done NIUA. So the entire city is taken in terms of completeness of water cycle. All the aspects of water, whether it is a reuse, whether it is abatement, whether it is a return flow, the entire cycle of the water is mapped out and the entire plan is being developed. Now, just to cut short and coming to the final points, what are the challenges when we talk of river rejuvenation? Problems are known, solutions are known, but as the previous speakers have pointed out, why there is an implementation issue? Why are we not able to implement it? One thing is, when we talk of wastewater management, there is no ecosystem available to develop and take these issues forward. As I was explaining, when we started at the Namami Gange program, number of STPs in Uttarakhand and UP were single-digit numbers. And now suddenly when you talk of constructing STPs along the entire basin of Ganga, you don't have agencies who are able to build up these STPs. There is no trained manpower who can run these STPs. There is no system for reuse of water, recycle of water. There is no system, there is no technology, or there are no people who can give technologies to promote all these initiatives. So unless you have an ecosystem where you have good agencies who are able to construct, who are able to run, who can innovate, this doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and requires certain patience to work with them. Just to give you an example, NMCG, when we started bidding these processes in UP and Uttarakhand, there were times when the bids used to fail. There was no proper response. The biddings have to be done again and again. But now, over last 4-5 years, given the credibility of NMCG, the finances with NMCG, and the way the ecosystem has developed, today we get 15 to 16 bidders for a single bid. This is the sea change. Because people know, yes, this program is on, HAM payments are assured, technology is assured, and there is a program which is being carried out. So this is the difference. So unless we develop these kind of ecosystems, players are not going to come suddenly, and STPs are not going to be built suddenly, and they are not going to be run suddenly. The entire ecosystem has to be built and developed. Second thing is the land issues. Getting a land for the STP, I realize, is one of the most difficult things in this country. First is the NIMBY syndrome. No, not in my backyard. Nobody wants a STP near his home or near his house. Everybody says, you please build it in some other place. Second, STP is a very complicated structure. Unlike a linear structure, a road structure, STP has a multiple site requirement. You require a land for the main STP, you require land for the pumping stations, then you have ROW issue, you have to lay rising mains, you have to lay deep mains. All this is very, very complicated in the Indian setting. When you are dealing with a city like Varanasi, you are dealing with a city like Kanpur or Prayagraj. So this is a practical problem which we face. Third thing in terms of rivers is lack of templates. Now at NMCG, we are sort of in a position to advise what should be the probable steps one should follow when developing a river rejuvenation plan. So that absence also hampered. And another thing is procurement processes for NPS. When we talk of nature-based solutions, somehow our government processes are not geared up how to procure nature-based solutions. Because in government, we follow a procurement system, we have to bid out and sort of select, evaluate people and then go out. So these are some of the challenges. Now in paucity of time, I am not elaborating much. And on the positive sides, I'm saying after Namami Gange program, I mean in the country, especially in the Ganga basin, a lot of awareness has been created. People are aware that rivers have to be clean. Courts have played their due part in terms of sensitizing. A strong foundation has been laid out in terms of what needs to be done for river rejuvenation. Now, because of the awareness, various other demands are coming out. We got a demand for a Namami Godavari program from Maharashtra. We got a demand for a Namami Kaveri program from the Kaveri state, and other states are also requesting such programs. Now, the final part of it, what are the achievements of Namami Gange program? I mean, I will be saying on facts. In terms of STPs, I mean, today under Namami Gange program, we have been able to create almost 152 sewage treatment plants with a combined capacity of 3,500 MLD. So this is just in a matter of 5 to 6 years, this much capacity has been created. Second is, in terms of accolades, I mean, Namami Gange program has been recognized as one of the top 10 restoration program in the world. In 2022, the UN tried to evaluate all the restoration programs in the world, and Namami Gange was adjudged as one of the top 10 projects, adjudging that the approach of the Indian government is right. And finally, in terms of outcomes, now CPCB publishes a report which is about polluted river stretches report. Uttarakhand, the water quality has improved from PRS 5, which means BOD more than, average BOD more than 3, to non-polluted category. So Uttarakhand has moved away from the non-polluted. Uttar Pradesh, the water was in PRS 3 category, it has moved to PRS 5 category. Bihar, water quality was PRS 2, it has moved to PRS4. In West Bengal, water quality was PRS3, it has moved to PRS4. So all stretches have shown a gradual improvement. Ultimately, our aim is to reach non-polluted category. We are sure with the projects which are in pipeline, which are being implemented, we will be achieving this aim soon. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mittal, for a very detailed explanation, but you evaded the questions which were put. We wanted to know the timeline. But one thing which he has brought out, he also touched upon the environmental flows. I think it's important to understand that environmental flows, even if you try to implement, there is a difficulty in implementing the environmental flows because all the demands is going to be additional demand from where this water is going to come. So even if we legislate, what we are finding is that because of the over abstraction of the groundwater table has gone so low that the surface water groundwater interaction has reversed than the usual interaction between the surface water and the groundwater. Usually the rivers get water from the groundwater after the monsoon. But in the present case, since the groundwater tables have been overexploited, many of our river stretches, including the river stretches in Ganga also, they are losing water to the groundwater. So even if we release the environmental flow, it's not going to remain in the river. So I think that is a very serious question. This is a very serious aspect which has to be looked into. That is where, when we are talking of the rejuvenation of the rivers, we have to monitor the flows in the rivers as well as the groundwater table in the basin. And he has mentioned that the basin as a whole is being tackled to really ensure that the proper maintenance of the groundwater table is being done. Now I'll go over to Dr. Mukesh Kumar Sinha, who is the Chairman of Central Water Commission, and I'll have to request him because we have already overshot the time. I'll request him to talk in terms of what are the actions being taken at the Central Water Commission level in terms of studies and in terms of rejuvenating not only Ganga but other river systems, river basins as well as he can also elaborate on briefly about the floodplain zoning which is being taken up by the Central Water Commission. Over to Dr. Sinha.
Good afternoon, dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. In fact, when we see the topic of water quality management, it reminds of my childhood poem, Water, Water Everywhere, Not Any Drop to Drink. Of course, that poem is from Samuel Taylor Coleridge on the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, where the situation was something is abundant but unusable, like a sailor surrounded by seawater but unable to drink it. But in our country, unfortunately, we have neither the adequate quantity, we are water stressed, per capita water availability is less than 1500 cubic meter per capita in overall terms, and practically we are water scarce, less than 500 cubic meter per capita. If you see the graph on the right side, at the time of independence, we have the per capita water availability of over 5,000, but because of the ever growing population, we have come down less to around 1341, and very slowly we are going down to about 1,000. This is a very alarming position, and with the growing pollution, which is making even scarce water resources unutilizable, really a very challenging task for us. And that's why, in fact, I bring this slide. I mean, all of us are aware about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that our needs increases from physical security to ultimately to self-actualization. In the concept of water resources also, this has been our perception. We started immediately after independence with the concept of Roti Kapra aur Makan, where we stressed more on construction of dams, water supply, another thing. Thereafter we moved to Bijli Sarak Pani, and thereafter Avirilta, Nirmalta and Swachhta. Of course, clubbed with that, we carried on the mission of Jal Shakti Abhiyan and Jal Jeevan Mission. And now certainly our Honorable Prime Minister has given a call for our Amrit Kal and Viksit Bharat, and there we have to be environment efficient, environment friendly, water use efficient, river rejuvenation, sustainability, and Atmanirbharta. Why I bring this slide? Because we have to rise up to the occasion and focus more on the current challenges like environment friendly, water use efficiency, river rejuvenation, sustainability, and Atmanirbharta. And this is what is call of the day, particularly when we have to rise and make our country Viksit Bharat. In fact, I have been fortunate to be associated with the drafting of national water policy. And there, when we consulted all sectors, stakeholders, right from politicians, from the members of parliament to the local panchayat institution, to the academia and others, we concluded with reference to water quality management that the growing pollution of water sources, especially through industrial effluent, is affecting the availability of safe water besides causing environmental and health hazards. In many parts of the country, large stretches of rivers are both heavily polluted and devoid of flows to support aquatic ecology, cultural needs and aesthetics. The water policy made certain recommendation. I'm just summarizing the brief of first was, of course, the water quality and quantity is interlinked. The monitoring of water quality, surface and groundwater, very essential. Ecological needs of the river should be determined and a portion of river flow should be kept aside to meet ecological needs, ensuring that the low and high flow releases are proportional to natural flow regime. Rainwater harvesting and conservation of water is also highlighted, and that brings us to need for augmenting the availability of water, maybe through direct use of rainfall. And our government has recently launched Jal Sanchay Jan Bhagidari Yojana for the same. Along with that, conservation of river bodies and through community participation is very important. The policy emphasizes on preventing encroachments and diversion of water bodies and drainage channels. In fact, in Central Water Commission, we have a huge network of water quality monitoring. As you see on the right side of the map, almost all over the country we have around 782 key locations, 657 on our hydrological observation sites and 125 water quality sampling sites. In addition, 88 water bodies are also being monitored. 427 in situ level 1 laboratories are there, where we are getting 6 parameters checked regularly. The level 2, we have 19 level 2 laboratories with 25 physiochemical and bacteriological parameters and 5 level 3 laboratories which have got additional 16 parameters relating to metals and pesticides. And I'm happy to say that our 22 water quality laboratories out of 24 are NABL accreditation that recognizes the standard which we are maintaining in water quality monitoring. In terms of river conservation and rejuvenation, we are working on a credible database. In fact, we are the only institution which is maintaining hydrological database of all the rivers in the country. We have around 1,543 sites. I have already said we have 870 water quality monitoring and assessment sites. In terms of river rejuvenation and restoration programs, we have already taken up the initiative on floodplain zoning and regulation and ecological flow monitoring. And along with that, we are also in the process of public awareness and community participation in these parts. Coming to the conclusion, water is a community resource by the states under public trust doctrine to achieve floods, food security, support livelihood, and ensure equitable and sustainable development for all. Central Water Commission comprises of all qualified Central Water Engineering Service officers all over India, having adequate infrastructure and manpower, and certainly I call upon all the agencies that we could be tapped more optimally for better water management in the country. In fact, I have been working very closely with the states, and one of the bigger challenge which we feel that often the states resort to implementing water resources projects without proper environment approvals and other things. And there, of course, the NGT and other court cases put penalties and give the stop order. But I firmly believe that though penalties are imposed, but we should stress on ecosystem based on prevention and eco-friendly work culture. And I certainly request the authorities concerned that mechanism and guidelines required to take a view on violation cases is urgently required where the projects and interventions are being taken. So this is the request to the concerned authorities to evolve this procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha, for saving some time and still giving a very detailed list of activities being taken up by the Sandwala Commission. I'll now go over to Dr. M.K. Goel, Director, National Institute of Hydrology. It's a premier institute of hydrology in our country, and they engage very closely with the Ministry of Water Resources. And I'll request Dr. Goel to throw some light on some of the related aspects. What is the kind of work which is going on in the institute which is related to the topic? Thank you.
Respected Honorable Chairperson, all the distinguished panelists, distinguished delegates present here. First of all, heartiest thanks for the invitation, and I congratulate the organizers for organizing the conference on a very important topic. Some of the information which I have brought has already been shared with you by our previous panelists, so I am not going to repeat that. But a few things I would like to bring to your kind notice that India's population is 16% of the world. Even the cattle population also falls in that range. Whereas our water resources are 4% and land resources are 2%. So you all can realize what pressures we have on our water resources and on our land resources. We have to feed 16% of the population from 4% of water. Further challenges are the spatial variability of water from 150 mm on Rajasthan side to 11,000 mm on the northeastern side. So much of variability of rainfall, and we have to tackle this rainfall variability. Another biggest challenge is the temporal variation of rainfall. Most 75 to 80% falls within 4 months from June to September. And we have to conserve that water and maintain that water for our needs for throughout the year. So that is another big challenge. At the time of independence, we were having per capita water availability of more than 5,000 cubic meter per person per year. But now it has reduced to 1,300 cubic meter. From 5,000 to 1,300 we have come because of population increase. And the projection is going to be less than 1,000 by the year 2050. Now, if the per capita water availability is less than 1,700, we say the society is water stressed. But if it is less than 1,000, we say it is water scarce society. And water is the prime requirement for development. And in that sense, now if you look at the total water resources of the country, more than 50% of the area is having water availability less than 1,000 cubic meter. So means more than 50% of our country is having a water scarcity conditions, and we have to tackle it. The total utilizable water available in our country is of the order of 1,123 billion cubic meter. But our demands are projected to be roughly 850 billion cubic meter by this year. And by the year 2050, they are going to be crossed. So the demands will be more than the available water, utilizable water resources in the country. So we have to think about some measures. We have to take measures, either recycle, reuse of water, interlinking of rivers. In some way, we have to conserve water. Water is not sufficient for meeting our whole demands as we have been doing it in the past. Groundwater is another important resource of this country. More than 250 BCM of water is utilized. India is the largest consumer of groundwater in the whole world. So groundwater is a big reservoir, like surface water reservoirs. We have groundwater reservoirs. We use that groundwater reservoir, but we have used it to such an extent that the water is going down and down. More than 60% of our irrigated agriculture and 85% of our drinking water demands are met by groundwater. The total potential is 433 BCM, but there is a need to conserve this water, and the government is putting all possible efforts to conserve this water, and we are seeing the results now. I will be sharing it shortly. Block-wise, there have been, say, of 6,600 blocks, roughly earlier 67% of the blocks were safe, in which the water utilization extraction was of the order of 70% of the annual recharge. But now it has increased to 73% thanks to the efforts of the government towards rainwater harvesting and watershed management. Now, NGT has also given us to our institute a number of studies related to floodplain zoning. So I wish to add a few issues related to that floodplain zoning. One thing is the digital elevation model. Earlier, we were having the resolution data at 90-meter interval or 30-meter interval, but now we have very fine resolution of 1-meter interval, and better is the resolution, better will be the analysis and the results. But that 1-meter resolution also calls for detailed analysis, which results into large amount of time requirement for running the system. And for getting that data also, that data is not readily available. So when we select this reach and try to find out the DEM for that, we have to carry out, we have to ask the Survey of India to get this 1-meter resolution obtained, and not only get the data, but they have to then carry out the filtering of the data, because if there are trees, there are buildings, those have to be removed, because we want the elevation of the surface, the terrain. That processing also takes time. Secondly, cross-sectional data is also required of the river, each at say 50-meter, 100-meter interval. So these are the two big requirements of the data, which takes time in collection as well as their processing, and that results the whole analysis to be carried out within a period of 6 months to 1 year, depending upon the amount of stretch we have taken. So I think these are some of the challenges before us, that more is the intense data, more is the intense analysis we carry out, exact analysis we carry out, more is the time requirement for carrying out such analysis. There are some further issues to floodplain zoning. There is a need for periodic review of floodplain zones which we have prepared, because the time is changing, the climates are changing, the flow characteristics are changing. There is shifting of river, which calls that we should every 5 years or every 10 years, we try to see that the floodplain zones we have demarcated are true or not. And secondly, as and when we want to carry out the analysis for a stretch, we should try to start collecting all kinds of data in one go, rather than doing it stretch by stretch. So let us carry out all the data, say cross-section survey is there, the DEM generation is there, the collection of the rainfall and discharge data and all those kind of processing data. So that should be done in a systematic manner, so that we can carry out the analysis in the earliest possible time. Secondly, I wish to say something about the river rejuvenation and environmental flows. Some of the panelists have already talked a lot about the environmental flows, but some of the challenges in maintaining the environmental flows I have brought. There are lack of data. The aquatic data is not available readily. So for a stretch for which you want to carry out the environmental flows, first you have to go to the field, find out what are the type of fish, what are the type of aquatic, zooplankton, planktons, what are the kind of system there. So that data, and that takes time. Secondly, we don't have the economic value of ecosystem services. So if we want to do that, for cost benefit analysis, we have to assign some economic value to the ecosystem services also. Third is exploitation of groundwater. As one of our panelists was saying, that because of the large extraction of groundwater, there is change in the interaction of surface water and groundwater resources. The rivers are drying up, there are influx of pollutants from the industries, and there is, because we are an agrarian economy, so there is a complex trade-off between agriculture and ecology. Water is a state subject, so if a river basin is falling, okay, so water is a state subject, so it is very important that if the environmental flow is to be released by one state, how it will do. So enforcement is a big issue here. Our water policies are largely governed by food security, livelihood, and economic growth. There is over 60% of sewage water in India which is discharged untreated into the water bodies. And recently our panelist from NMCG has given a detailed account of the water treatment capacity of our country, so that I will not repeat. But I would like to share with you some of the way forwards which we should do. One thing is the database. CWC has mentioned the vast amount of database being collected all over the country by CWC. So there is a need for development and continuous updation of integrated hydrological database, including the water quality data. And we should keep on intensifying our water observation network. Secondly, massive efforts on conservation of water in all sectors, domestic, industrial, as well as agriculture. Third and the most important is, as our chairperson has also said about the real time, say our water is not coming at regular time intervals. Sometimes the monsoon starts in June, sometimes in July, sometimes heavy rainfall occurs in August, sometimes in September. So integrated water resources management at basin scale needs to be carried out in real time through river basin organizations. So such organizations should be formed for each river basin, and they should manage the water resources of that basin in an optimal manner in real time, depending upon the availability of water and the projected demands for different sectors. We can use the application of different recent techniques, say artificial intelligence and machine learning, for water resources management. We should prevent our water bodies and floodplains from encroachment, and we should carry out floodplain zoning. The government is also emphasizing on that. Rejuvenation of rivers and water bodies through repair, renovation, and restoration. Then we should promote micro irrigation, increase the land and water productivity, promote organic farming, and eco-friendly pesticides we should use. Another important point is water use monitoring and pricing. Unless we price the commodity, people don't understand the value of that. So we have to monitor how much water is being used for what purpose, and we should give some price for higher the amount of water consumed, higher should be the price. Innovative technologies for water quality management. Our friend was mentioning about the bioremediation, nature-based solutions. We have to apply all that. STPs can't work at all the places. Expanding sewage treatment and industrial effluent treatment facilities is need of the hour. Development of safe disposal protocols for RO rejects as well as for septic tank effluents. Strict enforcement of pollution control laws. Unless we follow them strictly, the things will not happen. Then we have to train the municipalities and panchayats and user sectors on water conservation techniques, and we have to build the public awareness and community participation. Thank you very much for your patience here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal. I think before I conclude, there is one aspect which has been touched upon by Justice Sathelkar about the climate change. We have not elaborated. I think I'll take just a minute to tell this august audience that the climate change, the major impact which is going to be happening on the water resources is in terms of the enhanced variability, whether it's the high rainfall or whether it's the low rainfall. So you're going to get more droughts, you're going to get more floods. But one thing which is not usually understood properly, in our country we have around 50% rain-fed agriculture. Since the number of rainy days are going to be less, you're going to get almost the same amount of water which you are getting as a routine. But if you're going to get in less number of rainy days, that means the gap between the rains is going to increase during the Rabi season, during the Kharif season as well. So that implies that your crop which is rain fed so far is not going to survive unless you give the supplementary irrigation. So that is going to change complexion of the total irrigated agriculture or the rain-fed agriculture drastically, and which can be very, very problematic for the country, and we have to be ensuring that how we are going to survive in those conditions. So I'll just stop here, and I'll now request Justice Pratibha Singh to give the concluding remarks. Thank you.
You know, every day when we rise from court or at 1:15, there's this bunch of lawyers who come and try and say, we want to mention a matter, mention a matter. There's a lot of restlessness in the court because lawyers think we'll mention, get an adjournment and just move away. So I can see the restlessness in the audience right now. So I won't take too much time, just 2 minutes, and then we'll wind up this session. So first of all, thank you for all the co-panelists for such a wonderful presentation. There's so much research that has gone into this. Justice Talekar, I learnt a lot from what you said about unauthorized occupants and the change in the mindset as to how we need to question them as to why they came into occupation on a riverbed. I think it's a vicious circle. We do have empathy as judges, but we tend to kind of say, focus on rehabilitation, remove them, give them education, give them transport, and then they're all there again, occupying. So the question is, do you look at the interest of the occupants who are there, unauthorized occupants, or the larger public interest? And I don't think there's any doubt about how to deal with it. So we'll have to focus on the larger public interest and the larger country as a whole rather than the occupants who are illegally occupying the place, because then there's no end, we go into a vicious circle over there. Now, Dr. Mittal gave an elaborate understanding about how Namami Gange is working. And it is I think, a favorite project which is actually trying to span over 5 states. It's a huge challenge and we understand the challenge that is there. But the good thing is that all of us are focused on cleaning up the rivers. The minute we focus, I think it has to happen. It has to yield results. Maybe we are on the point where it's just going to kind of change in the next 2 years and we will move to the positive side, and we wish you all the best in this. Then we also had Dr. Sinha speak about the national water policy, and the good thing is we have the bigger regulators here, but I see the absence of civic agencies here. The civic agencies like the municipalities are the people who do the everyday work of making sure that the drains work properly, that the stormwater drains are separate from the sewage drains. That's where there is a problem, and I think there needs to be something for the NGT to bring all the municipalities together so that they can also think similarly and have a common plan as to how the municipalities need to work. And Dr. Goel spoke about how India is a country which has a stressed land resource and a water resource. There's no doubt about it, but still, we still think that in our culture we worship rivers, and so there is that reverence that we do have for rivers, and it should make a difference as we go forward. And Professor Gosen has, with his experience, actually told us so many things about how the, water regulatory bodies have to work and how the plans have to be made in a manner so as to be implemented properly, and stricter enforcement of pollution control laws. So I would just end by saying that it's been a wonderful one day, though of course I've been only here post lunch, but I can see that at least 70% of the audience is still here, and therefore that proves that the conference and the theme of the conference is a huge success. Wishing the National Green Tribunal and all the members who have come from all over the country, who keep taking care of our water resource, air resource, and all the environmental issues on a day-to-day basis, and safeguard it. I would like to express gratitude, not just as part of the judiciary, but as a citizen of the country to the immense work that the NGT and all the other bodies are doing. Have a wonderful evening and see you all tomorrow.
Heartiest thanks to our Honorable Chair, all the panelists and moderator for this session. We have reached to the end of the day 1 and this day's conference will again commence tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. I would request all of you to kindly gather in this plenary hall itself by 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you.